I will run, I will climb, I will soar. I'm undefeated, oh. Jumping out of my skin, pull the cord. Yeah, I believe it. Oh, the past is everything we were. Don't make us who we are. So I'll dream until I make.
What is the common point of all the religions? So many people will say to be a humanist. It means not stealing, not killing, to be very fair and kind with every people, sharing and having love for everybody. It's true that all the great prophets and saints like Buddha, Moses, Jesus, Krishna or Muhammad said that humanism is very important, but it's not enough. The most important is in 2 points. The first point is that human being lost an awakeness state and that now is in an illusioned ego. It's like that the human being is made up of 3 Russian dolls and that now he fell and is limited to only the 2 first Russian dolls, the body and the illusion ego. The first Russian doll is the body, and the human being is nourishing this body by eating and drinking every day. It's natural for him, and you don't need any prophet to remind him to nourish, to feed his body, because he knows that if he doesn't, he will die. It's the most external part of the human being, the quartz part. So we can compare it to an iron Russian doll. The second Russian doll is the illusion ego, the I am, the little I am. For rationalists and scientist people, it's in the brain, and for spiritual people, it's in the heart. It's the soul, the soul. This is the illusion ego, the I am. And this Russian doll, since childhood, the human being nourish it and feed it by I am, I have, I want, and try to build his bubble tower. So everybody wants to go up to reach the top. Nobody wants to reach the bottom or to go down. In all the fields, like sentimental fields, monetary fields, material fields, so everybody have many projects for. We can compare it to an ice Russian doll because it's more subtle than the body that is an iron Russian doll. So same, there is no need to have a prophet to remind human being to feed his ego. So even if the ego is in ice, it has the potential to reach the spiritual water. And the third Russian doll is the water Russian doll, the spirit that is potentially alive in the depths of the earth. And this is the role of the prophets and the saints to inform you about the existence of this third Russian doll that can stay in latence in all the human being life and not be open. And he won't be conscious to be dead, not dead by his body, but dead spiritually. Reaching the third Russian doll is called the awakeness in Buddhism and the revert to God in the monotheist religion. So this third Russian doll is directly linked to God. In the meditation religion, the shamanic religion, like Buddhism or yoga or certain groups of Hinduism, they use meditation. And in the monotheist religion, they use pray, and in some levels, they use meditation with God. The second axe that point out all the prophets and saints is that this life is an illusion and you have to prepare another life. So for example, for the monotheist is the judgment day to meet God, and for the meditative religion like Buddhism, it's the reincarnation. So you have to take your spiritual path, have the center of your life to prepare by purification your soul for this afterlife, and not taking your spiritual life just like a leisure or just like fun. Of course, you can live the bliss to have a family and to share and have joy, but you should not center your life on your family life so that you forget and erase your spiritual life. It's important to revert to the story of Adam and Eve. So when Adam or Eve took the fruits, they fell from the original paradise to our low world, this earth. And this story is recognized, of course, by the three monotheists, but also by the Hindu. The Hindu can be considered as a monotheist religion. Maybe was influenced by Abraham, because Abraham was living in Babylon, not far from India, and maybe the Brahman come from Abraham. The Brahman who are the Hindu priests. And in the Hindu scripture, we find Manu, so Adam, and Noah, and we find also Abraham, that is written in the scriptures, and also the Prophet Muhammad, and also the comeback of Jesus, that is called the Kalki Avatar. And in Sri Lanka, there is the Adam Peak, that is a mountain, and on the top of the mountain, there is the first print of Adam. For Muslim, Adam fell on earth in Sri Lanka. That's why in Sri Lanka and in India in general, there is good flavor and smell, because it's from the paradise. The Adam Peak is a pilgrimage for the four main religions: Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, and Buddhism. In Islam, the universe is divided in 7 skies and 7 earths. The paradise of Adam wasn't very high. It was only in the first sky, like in the high valley on earth. The 7 paradise can correspond to the 7 skies of the universe, with the gigantic size and endless distance between them. And the 7 hells can correspond to the 7 grounds inside the earth, like we know that the earth crust is so hot that human beings cannot go through very deeply. In the paradise, Adam was in the perfect relation with God and was receiving the divine gift just by thinking about it. He was perfectly aligned with God, like in a straight line. He was like in an awakened state and was enlightened, and he didn't feel any pressure. It was like pure peace and harmony, like in a musical show. After the fall from the paradise, all was different. Adam had to work the land with great and hard effort, had to plant seed, and had to wait very long time to get the harvest. Now the relation with God is disaligned and in a zigzag path. Now God is far compared to the relation that had Adam in the paradise. The garden now is like a labyrinth. So the goal is to revert to this paradise and even to reach higher paradise, because we can reach higher degrees than had Adam. So the human beings can take this fall and this earth as a springboard and reach other paradise, but also can fall in deeper hells and lower hells. The earth is on the level 0 and is the mirror of what exists in the paradise or in the hells. God created oceans on earth, but also created some oceans in the paradise that makes the earth oceans looking like little puddle of water, of drop of water, because he created things of the paradise with gigantic size and with light. And in the different hells there are some oceans, but oceans of fire. And the same God created some trees on earth, but also on the paradise, and they are gigantic, unlighted, and with eternal fruits, with a flavor that is 1 billion times better than our organic fruits. And same for other creatures like women, men, animals, birds, etc. that are present in the paradise and in the hells. Because in the paradise, the relation between God and Adam was like a compass. So the center was God and the periphery was Adam, but Adam was always linked. And now, after the fall, the Adam children astray from the path. The compass is now broken, and from generation to generation, the children of Adam astray from the path and are lost, can be lost by Satan and the devils. In this earth, the most important is that the rule of the quest is like the compass, that a peripheric part lost his center, so the periphery and the center. So if we take the image of the puppet with his puppeteer, like Pinocchio and Geppetto. So Pinocchio, who is Adam, was in the paradise directly and insensibly linked to his creator, Geppetto, or God for the image. In the paradise, Adam was constantly linked with God. He was thankful for the gift and this perfect life gift by God. The wire of the puppet were strong, and Pinocchio was thankful for the bliss that he was living in the paradise. Thanks to God. After the fall, the wires between the puppet and the puppeteer became weak and far. From this moment, Adam starts to see his Lord with a blurry sight from far. And generation after generation, the descendants of Adam start to forget completely God and the debt that they own to Him, and they start to become arrogant with the ego. I am. I am independent. I get all the credit I deserve from myself. I just believe in what I see, so I don't believe in God now. I am my own God. And we can observe it, for example, during football match when a football player scores a goal. He's standing like he's a god. Although that he's just a weak human being that has very small credit, actually. But now human being want to replace God, so we have gods in music, the god of football. For example, when Maradona died, some newspaper title was God died, or the god of pop music. So we are far from the time of Adam in the paradise that was thankful. Now the descendants of Adam wants to take any opportunities to be qualified as a god or to forget him. So this is the mission of the 315 prophets sent by God on earth to remind people about God's existence and to explain what is the real God's spiritual paths, and also to alarm people against the danger of the Satan and the danger of the trick of life. This life is not an eternal paradise, but only a transition to prepare the real life that will arrive after death. All the places on earth receive a prophet from God, from China to India to Europe, but we don't know all. We just know the most popular and famous, like Adam, Noah, Solomon, David, Abraham, Jesus, Moses, and the last one, the Prophet Muhammad. And it's really possible that, for example, the 5 Chinese antique emperors was also prophets, or in India, Rama, Krishna, and Buddha were probably also some kind of prophets. And their role is to teach the right method accepted by God in the spiritual path, because since the fall of Adam, the descendants of Adam are lost and astray from the path. So this path is like a quest, like winning the Olympic gold medal or the World Cup. It's not easy. The fall of Adam is like a serious disease. You cannot cure a cancer with a simple pill. And only believing in God is not enough. The faith in God is like the wedding contract with a woman, but then you have to feed the relation. You cannot be married and just come every 6 months and say to your wife, hello, I'm here. She would kick you out and reproach you not to feed the relation and the love. So it's the same thing with God. In this life, the trees forbidden by God are multiplied and hidden. They are very numerous and they are hidden because it's not formal trees but actions, bad actions and sins. All that because Satan and his army were allowed to astray human being and to make they fall to continue. Satan hates the sons of Adam, the human beings, because Adam was the cause of his rejection by God. So the symbol of the city for a normal life without following a prophet or a spiritual path to build in this life the perfect paradise, but it's an illusion. So in this life all is allowed except what the government forbids, and even for criminals everything is allowed, even what the government forbids. So it's an astray life. It's a very dangerous place and we have to emigrate to the beach and to the ocean, and we will see later what is it. And it's dangerous because we don't have any landmarks and any map of what we should do or not to do. Because in the paradise, the equation was very easy. There was only one tree. And now the trees are multiplied and hidden, camouflaged. So we don't see the danger. The city is just a symbol. That kind of life can be whatever in the countryside or in any place. We are like in the jungle, bitten by many animals like snakes, scorpions, or insects, but we don't take conscious because it's invisible. It's bad action from Satan. We don't have the map of the prophets and the landmarks to know what can have bad consequence spiritually. And those bites are not visible. It's not on the body, but on the soul. We talk in the beginning of the video about the three Russian dolls, the body, the ego, and the soul, the spirit. And this epoch encourage human beings to develop the second Russian doll, the ego, to nourish their passion so that the human beings like spiritually overweight or like an empty puppet, very weak, that completely lost its spiritual essence. And the spiritual path is like an old forgotten door in a castle. It's so dusty that very few people think about open it. So in the city, Satan and his army want human being to continue his fall. They fall deeper and deeper in the under earth, the seven hells, in different ways and degrees, like the higher degrees, like murdering somebody, killing somebody, or stealing, or bad actions with the tongue, like always lying or criticizing people, or gossip, or even normal life, kind of life, where we take this life as a God and we completely forget God except in the last situation when we have no other solution. All this come from Satan and his armies to astray human beings in different level and different degrees. We need the path and the method of a prophet, because it's not enough to be just kind with people or to be a good person. Because since the fall of the paradise, everything on the earth is engraved on the heart of the human beings. Attachment to the family, attachment to the money, attachment to the patient. When we touch anything that we like on the earth, it becomes a thorn on our heart. On the contrary, the spirituality and the love for God is very weak on the heart of the human beings, like a weak gleam. So 1 gram of contact with anything on earth will provoke 1 kilo of attachment in the heart of the human. And on the contrary, 1 kilo of spiritual practice like praying or meditation will give only 1 gram of good results, because the link with God was cut since the fall of Adam. Like, for example, like the relation in a family that was cutted for a long time is very hard and harder to rebuild the relation than if the relation was continued throughout years and time. So to sum up this part, we have to understand that the fall of Adam can continue in the different hell's degrees and hell's floors. But the difference with Adam is that the trees on earth doesn't provoke an immediate sanction and punishment. Human beings can touch the trees of sin and fault, but Satan can give them at the beginning the illusion that it's a good thing and the illusion of a bliss. If the human doesn't wake up and take conscience that he is lost and that he must follow the path of the prophets, he will store and accumulate the weight of his sins and faults, and after life his heart will be so heavy that he will be attracted in the underground by the hells like a magnet. Moving from the city to the beach is the beginning of the spiritual path. It's the level number 2. On the beach, the person will have the prophet's map that will help him to know where to go and where not to go in the city or in the jungle. He will be able to filter what is good in the city and what is bad. The spiritual path works on the soul, and the soul is like the body. It's natural. It can be athletics or can be overweighted. So it's like a diet to lose weight. So there are spiritual exercise like praying or meditation, like in sport there are physical exercise to gain muscle, but like in the diet you must have a discipline not to eat too much fat. If you don't have, your physical exercise will be useless. So the same in the spiritual path, you must have a discipline and a minimum of asceticism, or your spiritual exercise will be also useless. So if you make a yoga session on the morning and on the night you go in a crazy spree with marijuana and super sex, your yoga session will have been useless. It's like building the wall of a house and then destroy it the same day. You must also purify your heart from the hidden soul impurity like jealousy or other hidden vice, or you will be like a bird that is soiled by the petrol in the sea, even if you pray 24 hours a day. The beach and the spiritual law is taught by the patriarchal prophets. There is a difference between the patriarchal prophets and the rabbinical renewed prophets. The patriarchal prophet is building a new civilization in a virgin ground, like the image to build a city hall in a city. The patriarchal prophet will come for all people, for mass people, from 7 years old to 97 years old, for men, women, children, grandfather, grandmother, for educated people, for uneducated people, for all the city. He will use very simple and strong matters for the construction, and he will explain by very simple dogma without complicated metaphysics or paradox. The message is simple: to reconnect with God, to purify your soul, and to protect your life with my spiritual law, the tradition and law of God. Among these patriarchal prophets, we can talk about the Yellow Emperor, who is the father of the Chinese civilization, Abraham, who is the father of the Semitic tradition, Jew, Christian, and Muslim Islamic, Moses and the 10 Commandments, or Prophet Muhammad, who is the last prophet sent to the humanity. It doesn't mean that he doesn't know the knows or the secret path and secret mystical secrets, but his principal mission is to teach the basic dogma of the unicity of God, but he will choose a little group among his followers to teach the mystical secrets, but history will not associate that kind of prophet with mystical secret teaching. For the verificator prophet, we can quote Buddha, Krishna, or Jesus. The verificator prophet, on the contrary, belongs to a very old tradition that is already strong and already built. So for example, Jesus, who was belonging to the Judaist tradition. So the city hall is already present, but there is a subtle problem inside the city hall. So Jesus came because Judaism authorities was focusing too much on the exotericism part of the religion, the religious law, and not enough feeding the spiritual part of it. So when he arrived, the Judaism was dry and hard, tough like a stone, like a rock. But Jesus was rejected by Judaism authorities, so he focused to give the spiritual path to his 12 apostles. This teaching was a Gnostic teaching based on metaphoric explanation. It was reserved to a small spiritual elite and not for every people or for mass people. If the patriarchal prophet came to build a city hall or even like a shelter, a building with very strong material, the verificator prophet comes to bring his closer disciple to the inside well, inside the building, inside the shelter. And this well contains a special water that is the water of God light. This well and this light of God is inside the human being, inside his soul and heart. So it's very important when we have a sentence of a prophet or wise man to know the context and to know to who was intended this sentence, what kind of people. Was it elite spiritual people or mass people, normal people? Patriarchal prophet is more like a teacher of high school that talk a lot about the law and to build a civilization. And the verifical prophet is more for top research session students. So we will talk more about paradox, metaphysical, spiritual path, and like metaphysical concepts. But it doesn't mean that one is superior to the other. It's just a role, like two different teachers that have two different roles. For example, Moses in the Sinai mountain had 100,000 people that was Israeli, and he took from God the 10 commandments. So his people was a big crowd, very numerous, and the 10 commandments are very basic to build a civilization, like you will worship one God, you won't kill, you won't steal, and you won't try to take the wife of your neighbor. The same for the Prophet Muhammad, that at the day of the farewell speech, he had in front of him 100,000 companions, 100,000 apostles of him, and he said, your life, your blood, and your honor are holy. So it's very important rules that will surround the law of a new civilization. On the contrary, Jesus is always associated with the 12, not 100, not 1,000, not 100,000, but 12. And he says very Gnostic and mystical sentence. Like the words that I say are from the Father, because I am in the Father and He is on me. The same for Buddha, who had 10 main disciples, and some of his teaching is just to take a rose in his hand and rolling it, and one of his disciples understood one spiritual meaning. You cannot give that kind of metaphorical teaching if you have 100,000 people in front of you, because many people will understand it wrongly. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna had only one disciple, and he said, "O Arjuna, I am teaching to you because you are my faithful disciple." And the Bhagavad Gita is really Gnostic and mystical words.
The common point between the patriarchal prophets and the revocatory prophet is that they all follow the law, the religious and the law of God that is represented by the beach. It can be the Jew law, it can be the Islamic law, it can be the ancient Chinese law of Confucius, or it can be the monarchical law of Buddha, or also the Hindu law of the ancient Rishi of the Vedas.
It's the law of one of the great patriarchal prophets that was sent by God to all civilization. So it's like a body diet, first to make some physical exercise to make the body stronger, and second to avoid some dish, not to have the body gaining or taking weight or gaining fat. For example, the 5 praise of the Muslim helps the Muslim to reconnect with the Supreme Lord Allah. It's like Pinocchio that reconnects and rebuilds the strings that link him to the Supreme Lord, to Geppetto the puppeteer. The relative admits its weakness to the absolute. And also in Christianity, there were 7 praise that was spread during the day, the different parts of the day, like the 5 praise of Islam. It can also be the 3 daily Jew praise, like Shaharit for the morning, Minha for the afternoon, and Arvit for the evening, or the spiritual daily routine of the Krishna devotees. It's very important to have a regular methodology, a regular practice that will make you to be always with God and not only when you need Him, like a far option when you need Him and remind God. It's also very important to know God as the Supreme Lord to avoid false dogma like incarnation when God become a man like Jesus or Krishna. So God is unique, is one, and is beyond the form, beyond the time, beyond the beginning, beyond the end. He is omnipotent and omniscient, knows everything and is controlling everything in the universe, but is beyond the universe. The world is his signature. He created everything, but is beyond this world in his essence. So God cannot be limited by being Jesus or Krishna that were born and had a form and an existence. A limited existence with birth and death. So the beach is the level of mass people to have every day a daily clean up, spiritual cleanup or spiritual washing. So the inner body, the spiritual body, will still be material like ice, but with a little of liquids, a little of water, liquid water, because of this daily cleanup. It's not like the next level where the devotee on the spiritual path see his body to be totally liquid or vaporized. The spiritual body is just a name, a symbolic name to design the soul. And the water a symbol for the light of God or for the presence with God. And then the second part, like we said, is like a diet, not leaving the fat entering the heart, the soul. So every wise man or prophet said and advised human being not to be attached by life, to take the life with the hand and not with the heart, like Buddha, Jesus, Moses, or Muhammad. Peace upon all of them. And finally, the right spiritual path must be enlightened and humanist. It must create an enlightened civilization and an enlightened society, not a rigorist or dark society.